Richards trying to scoot in there alone. It pinballs to the crease.
Let's get it.
Oh my God! Here we go.
You're listening to the Pod Street Bullies podcast with your hosts, Derek.
How you gonna get it, Bobby?
John. Matt Casey.
Unnecessary, but totally necessary.
And Cody.
What's not to love?
What's happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Pod Street Bullies. My name is Derek.
And I'm John. What's going on, everybody?
And we have one Matt joining us here tonight. Matt Casey, most
Good
valuable
evening. I
Matt.
can't tell you how excited I was to actually be invited to this recording, Derek.
Oh, not my fault. You're not in the High and Wide group chat anymore. You were.
Yeah, I'm actually cool with that. That's good.
Well, next time, if we decide to use our StreamYard here, I will make sure that you guys are.
Do you want to come like watch Real Housewives on my couch while we're doing it? Like you just kicked in the door and you're sitting there using my remote. I'm kidding.
I mean, I am like
I'm kidding.
The co-owners here, so you can. I'm kidding.
Co-owner for now. I'm having one of our lawyers drop some paperwork where we can.
Is this like a whole like, oh well, I'm actually 51% co-owner and you're 49, you piece of shit?
We're thinking about dropping you down to like 11.654.
As long as it's more than Hoagie. As long as it's
you're
more
gonna
than
be
Hoagie.
diluted like the guy from the Facebook movie when he's like 0.1%.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't like that. All right, so no more of that. All right, no more of that. Or at least I'll give you guys a heads up so you don't feel so left out.
It was so clear that John was really bent out of shape, though.
It was more,
apparently you
John
guys
and I talked
recorded
about
a show.
Well, it was more of I'm standing on the train platform and Carrie's like, "Why didn't you record with the guys last night?" I'm like, "What the hell you mean? Why didn't I record with the guys last night?" Then she's showing me the freaking stream. I'm like,
Oh man, Carrie's the Yoko Ono in the group here. She's breaking it up.
We hashed it out. We did hash it out. It's all good. It's
I
smooth
drove
sailing.
over to where do you live again? Amish Village or whatever, and I punched him square in the nose. We're good.
It's about a half hour east of me.
Pick it up. Look at this. I got to
There you go.
There you go.
Look at that. F&M.
And
Where all the ritzy kids go.
Yeah.
Where
the fighting
Amish. State school. The public school. The fighting Amish. Oh boy. Well, before we say something worse than that, let's kind of.
That's really like the Amish are really gonna get bent out of shape. They can't even watch.
listening to us.
Jesus Christ. Here we go. What a start. Let's
If an Amish person complains about it, they're actually a hypocrite.
right, or they're Mennonite.
In which case, get out of here.
Yeah, right. We're
Banana night. Banana night.
Wait, speaking of singing, sorry, I know we have
laughing so hard at this.
I was like lying in bed like with my wife and kids earlier, and my wife had the red carpet show for Grammys on. I am literally freaking dumber from watching that show. It's like what are these people even talking? I don't recognize a single one of them, and I'm like, what is happening here?
My wife's been watching Married at First Sight.
What's that?
Like
my wife's been watching.
It's the Grammys.
The Grammys.
I don't recognize one song. Is Steely Dan nominated? I don't know.
I thought you said that like matter of factly, like they were nominated. I'm like, oh, they came out with something new. Yeah, my wife's been caught up on Married at First Sight. That's a good one.
I can't.
It's not. No,
Hard.
I just get hooked just because it's on the television. But regardless, speaking of coming up on the television here, we finally get back to the second half of the season. The Flyers, after the All-Star break, are going to be beginning the season here against Florida.
All-Star games are the stupidest thing on the planet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's get into that.
Matt Casey had some pointed opinions in regards to
All right,
certain.
no, John, you teed it up. You go.
No, you probably have more specifics. I'll be honest with you. I didn't really watch much of it, but it is just a waste of a weekend. It's a waste of high-end talent. It's just it involves stupid people. Like I threw it on yesterday, maybe for 5 minutes, and they were interviewing Will Arnett. Well, first of all, it was Emily Kaplan interviewing Will Arnett.
Nice to meet you.
And she's talking about his coaching stance. Like, oh, who are you emulating with the knee up? I'm like, okay, nope.
It's
turning
so
this
bad.
off.
So do you like this whole intro or this whole like inclusion of the celebrities though? So they had Will Arnett, who actually I don't mind. My kids are big Lego Master fans, and I listen to Smart List. Like I'm not don't hate on Will Arnett, but then they had Bieber, they had Bublé on Shrooms, and then
Highlight of the weekend.
Hands down the highlight of the weekend. And then the fourth person, I didn't even know. I was like, who the hell is this person?
Right.
And they're doing this like celebrity thing, and it's they had Bieber like warming up. It's like, get out of here, you little meth crack freak show. And like, what do they have to do with anything? You can be a fan and not like try to make this like spectacle out of it. I think
growing the game.
I don't even know if they do this. I'll watch some of the skills competition, but even that's gotten like, who cares?
Right.
I think the only way they
as
make this legit is almost do what MLB does. And it's like, hey, switch it back to an East-West, and the winner of the East-West gets home ice advantage for the Stanley Cup.
I mean,
like that.
Either that or go and do like the World Cup thing again, where it's like you go by nations.
Yeah, North America. Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather them just have a week off, rest up, and then go back to playing hockey.
But be a lot of Russian booze there. Hey,
but you know what I mean? It's just
bad this past weekend.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's a waste of time. It's a gimmick. I think the last All-Star game that I really paid attention to was 1994. And even then I was like, after the introductions, I was like, okay, I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah. Unless there's some sort of like stake involved, it's just not worth it because they're obviously not going to hit one another.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No,
has it reached the NFL level of a joke though? Like in terms of
isn't that like flag football now?
It's flag now. Yeah.
I mean,
so is it there yet?
Well, I feel like that's the only way they were getting NFL players to show up to that thing,
Right. Yeah, long gone are the days of Sean Taylor blowing somebody up,
a kicker up.
Right. Yeah, a kicker of all players, a kicker. Sean Taylor. It's like, get off the tracks, buddy.
That's what Miami does, baby. We go 100% of the time. Anyway, so all-star games are complete ass, and it's a waste of time, and we should stop doing it.
Agreed.
Right. I don't think we should stop doing it. I still like it. It just needs to mean something, like you guys had both alluded to.
Yeah, but if it's not going to mean anything, I'd rather just not have it. I just think the amount of money they probably charge for that event too, and it's just such a joke.
Yeah. It brings revenue to the city, but like the last thing Las Vegas needs is that type of revenue.
It's in Toronto.
No, it's Toronto.
It was in Toronto. Oh yeah, who cares? But like think about the smaller ones, like bring it to. What a shit show that would be. Arizona. Mullet Arena.
Campus.
I think that's what they should do. Not to totally sidetrack, is you do like, hey, we are gonna go to like a B-level market. And I'm not even saying Arizona. It's like
take it to Lake Placid.
Yeah, do the Lake Placid with fans. Like that would be actually, I would be much more intrigued about that thing versus any of this like, outdoor game. Now there's multiple stadium series. I'm like, I can't even keep track anymore.
Right. It's watered down. It's diluted.
Get everybody playing roller hockey. Like that's the next iteration of this. Is everybody has to be on
the equivalent of the NFL now. Going from tackle to flag.
They don't even get rollerblades. They're just in sneakers.
It's knuckle puck time.
Oh yeah, that'll be what's next. They'll incorporate celebrities like Keenan.
Do you guys remember? Were you guys too young for Rock and Jock? So this was like a thing back in like the mid 90s on MTV where like they would have celebrities and like and athletes come in and they would play like a softball game or like a football game, but it'd be staged. It's like, all right, top of the third, we're gonna have David Justice and Corbin Burnson, who played Roger Dorn in Major League, for all you who don't remember, get into a tiff. And like, it would just like play out like that. But it was like, That's what I'd rather just do that. Just do a freaking reality show.
What about the thing I can remember watching when I was a kid? It was like inline skating, but they used to knock the crap out of each other.
Roller
roller
derby.
Roller
derby.
Called
They
ice
should do
derby.
that.
Ice derby.
Wouldn't that be fun? That would be
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, I'm sure all the coaches and management would love that.
Well, instead of getting the
Just the
All Stars,
goon.
you bring like the
The goon
slick
from each
dick-
team.
slick
No,
dick Nick.
anyone who has passed through waivers in the last 2 months has to participate.
Like Justin Bailey, come on down.
Like, oh, come on, guys. Somebody claim me. Really? I can't do this.
Oh, that's an idea. That's an idea. I think we should explore, maybe petition for. But yes, All-Star game is now in the rear view. We get to the last 32 games of the season. The Flyers right now are sitting at third in the Metro. I think they're 8-9 points, something like that, out of first place, with New York and Carolina ahead of them. But the main topic of conversation, we'll kind of get into like what the approach is going to be for this team, which there was a quote that came out today. Kevin Kurz tweeted it out from John Tortorella, kind of giving you a glimpse into the mindset of this team and Tortorella, at least in regards to what's going to need to be done versus what should be done. So with the approach here, to me at least, and the hot topic this past week was Scott Lawton. We'll get into that right now.
Can you summarize the quote for our solid listener base here?
So I'll pull it up and just there's tidbits in regards to what I really wanted to go over. And we're kind of in a situation that a lot of people didn't think we'd be in. We're starting our last 32 games here, last third of the season. We're looking to try to do things we want to do and get what we want to be. But also we're not backing off at all as far as what we're trying to do with the organization in the big picture as far as rebuilding. So to me, this is them trying to have their cake and eat it too.
Mm-hmm.
They want to make the playoffs. Every team wants to make the playoffs. They're in a position where they could, but they also understand that this is not a team that is built for sustainable success, which I think we're all very cognizant of at this point. So I'll pose it this way. If you're looking at it from our viewpoint here, just this season in a vacuum, are you pushing for more of a rebuild mindset, or do you want to go for it, say, the hell with it, let's make the playoffs, let's try to make a run? I'll go to you first, John.
Well, I think here's the thing. You need to recognize that you're in a playoff position and you have a roster of players that have done enough to earn that position. So to respect those players, you can't just sell off pieces and be like, well, sorry guys, but for the long term, we're going to mail it in, right? You need to put your faith in them and say, hey, you got us this far. You take it as far as we can get you. You know, we aren't going to trade guys like, and I know we're going to get into this name a little bit later, Scott Lawton right now, because we know what he means for the president of this team. And we want to see what you guys can do. I think that the organization owes it to this group of players. You know, I just feel like you risk issues in the locker room or ticked off core pieces if you just start removing when you're in a playoff spot. So I don't think that they need to add, but I think they need to be very careful about what they subtract and make sure that they're not subtracting somebody where the rest of the roster is going to feel like, well, you've just taken one of our key pieces for a playoff run.
Right. And that falls in line kind of with the last sentence Torts gave in that quote, where he says, if it's the proper asset coming back and we're going to lose one of the players that are a big part of this in building this right now and where we are in the season, there will be no hesitation. So like to me, at least the way it's coming off is that if it's a name like Scott Lawton, because we're going to get into it here, they're not going to be trigger shy. Like they're going to pull the trigger on a deal that's going to work for them, that's going to bring back the assets that they're looking to acquire. Kind of conversely towards what John said there. He's the coach. Yes, he has a say in it. Ultimately, it is up to Danny Briere. I mean, where do you stand on that, Casey?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with John in that this team has overachieved to the max. And maybe we have seen the best of it. I don't know. Maybe we have seen the best game in that Dallas, and now we're about to like see a vicious plummeting that we were expecting from October on. But you know what? It's been a fun ride one way or the other. But what no one can take away is that this team and this group of guys who are gritty, underachieving, everybody's picking us to finish bottom of the league. They've reignited interest in the Flyers from the casual fan, not us. We're there through thick and thin, and it stresses us out one way or the other. But I think we're in kind of a dangerous position where you don't know if you're a buyer, you don't know if you're a seller, and that, in some ways, it's a good spot to be in. In other ways, it's a really, really tough management spot to be into. And Danny is going to have to make the decisions. And I think if I'm reading between the lines, what in an instance like Scott Lawton, if they end up getting a first round or a first round pick offer within the next 2 drafts, I think you have to take it. Scott Lawton, whether he's moved now or in the offseason or at the end of next year, he's gonna get moved, and his draft at his acquisition value or his trade value is gonna go down.
Yep.
And so I think it's really, I know we keep on wanting, I keep on wanting to kick the can down the road. The trade deadline's maybe March 10th. Do I have that right somewhere?
I think it's the 8th, but somewhere in the ballpark there.
We need to see if this team is coming out of the All-Star break as the team that went into January or the team that came out of January. And we have basically 2 to 3 weeks of a manageable schedule to figure that out. If we're still in a top 3 spot going into March 1st, I don't know how you can blow it up. I don't think you can. I don't think you need to trade off assets and bring in tons of that's not going to happen. If we go to the playoffs or we're making a run, we're running with this group that put us here.
I think that I'm sorry, Derek. I just want to get this one point across. So I think trading someone like Scott Lawton, though, from a talent standpoint, isn't blowing it up.
Right.
No, I do think it's what he provides in the locker room.
Yep.
100%.
And I guess, when you think about it, Casey, I'm with you, right? A first round pick, you'd be crazy to say no.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that kind of in line with what you guys are saying, it would be a disservice to the guys as part of this team that have gotten them to the point that they're at to start trading away the pieces that have been rumored, the Lawtons and everybody. I would make an argument that the Sealers, the Walkers, the guys with expiring deals should be dealt, just because you can't kick that can down the road. You can't just say, okay, we'll trade them in the offseason because they're gone. Right. Now, Lawton, I'd argue, okay, maybe that's a draft day trade, or maybe that's in the days leading up to the draft, because that way you get what you can out of him this year. If they're going to continue to go on a run and potentially make the playoffs, it would be a disservice to the guys on the team in terms of quote unquote blowing it up and shipping out 3, 4, 5 guys that were a key part of them being how good they are right now. So I like that. I think it's a good idea to keep these guys together. But again, if a deal comes through where someone says, I'm going to give you a first and a third, first and a fourth for Lawton, tough to say no, in my opinion.
Right.
Well, the interesting thing is too, is I think from the common fan, right, you would say, well, obviously the Flyers are going to value Scott Lawton more than they would a Nick Sealer. But you have to wonder if Danny Briere in his mind is going, actually right now for this team, Nick Sealer is more valuable than Scott Lawton.
Because we just signed Ryan Paling for another 2 years.
Right. And we have Noah Cates. And you know what? Nick Sealer's doing a freaking great job on a ridiculously cheap contract.
Right.
Where it's there might be more value to holding on to him and entertaining the idea of extending him as opposed to trading him for, let's be real, he's not going to score a first round pick,
Right. What is the, all right, for a second in this year's draft, do you move him?
Lawton or Sealer?
Lawton. Oh, Lawton?
Oh, sorry. Did I just totally space out on that?
We were just talking about Sealer. So I was saying that
for a second,
you're not. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. You're not going to get a first round pick for somebody like Sealer, where it's you might entertain keeping him for what you would get in return, as opposed to a Scott Lawton, who I think might fetch you a first round pick to somebody who's been, smoking it a little too long.
Right.
I
Tampa.
I don't even think they have first round picks
Right.
left to spare. Like maybe
we're
in
not entered in the
2028.
2029 draft, Casey.
Doesn't fall in line with our timeline here. I think, and to not to counter, but like almost agree. I do think they value Sealer more than they do Lawton right now, and not going to harp on the Paling deal. I think that was just, hey, they like Paling, and sure he could supplant Lawton if he needs to, but in terms of like you see it night in and night out. Like the Red Wings game was a perfect example, and we had mentioned it a couple weeks ago. That team was down and out. Martinez, I think, brought it up. That team was down and out in that game. Sealer decided to drop the gloves, take somebody on, and from then on, it was balls to the wall, and that team came roaring back. Like that is immeasurable in terms of a presence in the locker room, a presence on the team. Like that's the type of stuff that, like, yeah, Lawton is somewhat known for as well. He'll drop the mitts if he needs to, but Sealer, man, is a different animal in my opinion.
Right.
I would I think it's the ultimate test of the culture that you're building too. When I'm going back, God, what year? It may have been pre-pandemic, for God's sakes, but like when Wayne Simmons left, everybody knew he was getting traded after that outdoor game. And, that was kind of the heart and soul of that team. And I would argue, with the exception of the bubble, like we didn't really see a team, with that kind of swagger after Simmons left. And, when Giroux left, oh my God, it's Giroux. He's been the team. Okay, guess who stepped up? Travis Connecting stepped up. Couturier stepped up the best he could through injury, but I think, he's the quiet leader. But you saw guys like that, like people are stepping up. So I don't think we should be afraid of trading anyone, including Lawton, based on the locker room aspect, because I think that's exactly what you spent the last 18 months doing, is building that culture and building that locker room. And you know what? It's going to get stress tested, and this may be the moment to do it.
I just think ultimately Tortorella is going to continue to do that. It doesn't matter what pieces are there. He was able to turn the locker room in his first year into a solid locker room and then build upon that to the next year. And yes, there were changes. There were a lot of players in, a lot of players out. Like no matter the type of player in that locker room, Tortorella is going to make sure that they fit that mold. And if they don't, you're in the doghouse or you're getting shipped out. And that's very evident regarding the moves that have been made to this point under the Tortorella regime.
Watch that, trade deadline passes, and there's a lot of rumors that Lawton for a first, and we end up keeping him. Then Tortorella benches Lawton the first game after the trade deadline. That's the Tortorella move right there in his hometown.
It happens to be in his hometown. Yeah, thank you very much. Casey, you bring up an interesting point with the Wayne Simmons trade. I can remember, just from a fan standpoint, and thinking about guys like Lawton being traded. Right, the problem with that trade was that there was nothing to cling to with the return, right? You had the heart and soul guy. I think arguably the fan favorite, on that team. Of course, there were a couple notable players, but we got a 4th round pick in Ryan Hartman, and it was would we just trade him for the sake of trading? We had to deal him, and I think that's where you have to be careful with guys like Scott Lawton, where it's make sure you're getting something back that you can sell your fan base on.
What did we whip on the Hartman heat, though? Right. We had it. We had the goose in the hand, or whatever the term is.
Do you remember the original rumors that they were going after Tolvanen?
Eli Tolvanen, yeah.
Eli Tolvanen, yeah. That was the original rumor, is that they wanted him, but it sounds like obviously Nashville wasn't willing to part with him. We got Hartman, which 2 years later, goddamn superstar, apparently.
Who thought that was going to happen, though?
Right. Sure shit probably wasn't going to happen in Philadelphia.
Chuck Fletcher knew it.
Did Chuck Fletcher remembers?
But and I don't expect that this regime would do a thing like that. But don't trade Scott Lawton for a 3rd and a 5th round pick. Don't do stupid crap like that just to move him, to say you're moving on. Make sure that it's something that it's okay, I can get behind this. The Giroux trade, right? People, look where we are now. We've got Owen Tippett for 8 more years and a 1st round pick coming up.
I hate to sidetrack, but I bought my kids t-shirt jerseys a couple years ago, and I got my youngest, a Travis Konechny one. All right, that's great. But my oldest has a Carter Hart one. I think it might be time to replace that one. I think Tippett might be the same for that. So
Yeah. Sully asked about that the other night. He's like, "Where's Carter Hart?" And I'm like, buddy,
Bowling.
Carter.
early bowling, yeah.
Carter did some bad stuff. Allegedly.
Right.
Carter allegedly did some bad stuff, and he's like, "Oh," I was like, "Yeah." I was like, "We like Sam Emerson now," and he's like,
in the
"Okay."
penalty box of life.
It's called jail. But yeah, no, there has to be, like you had said, I think it was John, you said it. There has to be something to cling to here. Like Tippett was the Giroux deal. There was nothing with the Simmons deal. With the Provorov deal, I mean, what are we clinging to with the Provorov deal? Like Sean Walker at this point.
Sean Walker.
But is he coming back?
And a first round pick.
The first rounder, yeah. What is the first rounder? Was it a first rounder? I thought it was a second rounder.
Didn't
I
we
think it's a
get
second
first
rounder.
round pick in that trade?
I think we did. I don't know.
No, I don't think we did. I think it was a second rounder.
All right.
We got LA's second rounder. Regardless, that's the big sticking point. There does need to be something to cling to. Like you'd said, third, fourth round pick for Lawton. No, absolutely not. We'd rather keep him, rather get what we can from him.
Sorry, back to the culture thing. I don't know if you guys like picked up on this, subtle to this. So like Travis Konechny went to the All-Star game. We all didn't watch, whatever. Deserving, should have been there last year, but for some reason Kevin Hayes got the nod in, and it still didn't boost his trade value. And I think, but the Flyers just released some practice pictures today, and traditionally the All-Stars get like a day or two off after it. Guess who's on the ice? Guess who's there? It's Travis Konechny. Yep. And in my mind, that's
captain material.
Yeah, that's a culture thing right there. And if we lean into Konechny and dare I say friggin' Sanheim, like the two Travi and then Couturier and I can see Atkinson maybe getting moved and all that sort of stuff. But like I think the culture is there to survive Scott Lawton trade if the value is correct. But you're right, Derek. Something does need to hold on. Yeah. John, go.
Provorov deal did involve a first round pick.
It did. Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. It was. I'm just reading an old article. In a three-way trade involving Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and Columbus, the Flyers sent Ivan Provorov and Kevin Connaughton to Columbus in return for the Blue Jackets' 2023 first-round pick. So it was in the last draft. It was number 22 overall.
Is that who we took?
That's what we took.
That's
Bonk
what
with.
we took Bonk with.
Yeah. Okay.
And a conditional second-round pick.
That's what I was thinking then. Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
My error.
Freeway. Nice.
Yeah. So I forget even what I was about to say there in regards to Casey's statement. But yeah, I think coming back from the All-Star break, it speaks volumes. And I think in terms of, God damn it, it was just on the tip of my tongue and now I lost it again. So let's just move on. But the approach here coming up in these next 32 games, we had mentioned it. We were talking before the show. It's kind of a mixed bag. There's some good teams. There's some really bad teams. I mean, we're going to play San Jose. We're going to play Chicago, but we're also going to play Boston. We're going to play Florida. We're going to play New York. I think we've got New York 3 times. I'm looking at it as we're right now in terms of points better than probably 2/3 of who we're going to play. But not encouraged by the way that we entered this stretch. In terms of confidence levels and where we're at, Casey, where are you at in terms of how confident you are that we can close this season out and get a playoff berth?
Right now, I'm teetering right at a 6. I'm overly optimistic just in general with this team. I was like, hey, we can come back from a 5-1 deficit against Detroit and then just get our heart broken because of a terrible goal by Carter Hart. And we can every time I think we're down and out with this team, they actually make me believe a little bit more. And right after the holidays, we went to Winnipeg, who was blasting through everybody, and we shut Winnipeg out. Okay, no big deal. Like ho hum, like here we go doing that. But the last 5 games messed me up a little bit, and we haven't had a 10-game losing streak or multiple 10-game losing streaks like we've had in the last couple of years. the 5-gamer really messed me up. But, you know, I had to think about it this way. Okay, if we had gone win-loss, 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 win-loss for 10 games in a row, would I be feeling differently? Probably. It's the fact that we won 5 in a row
Right.
and
It's
then
the
lost
chunks.
5 in a row. It's just pure polarization. I'm always going to be optimistic. So I'll say I'm putting my grade at a 6 right now, but it's a soft 6.
Same question to you, John.
Well, I got to be honest with you. I really can't answer this question until I see about the next 5 games. I mean, Casey kind of alluded to this, but it all really depends on what they look like after this All-Star break. You've got the Panthers, the Jets, the Kraken, the Coyotes, and the Maple Leafs in the next 5 before the Stadium Series. If we can win 3 out of 5 of those, I'm still in on it. But if we lose... What?
One of the keys is if we're losing, not losing in regulation, because that's also how we have survived a lot of this too.
But if we come out of the All-Star break looking like we did before we got into the All-Star break, I'm sorry, you can start selling because it's over.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I just think it's like, okay, we convinced ourselves that the break was needed. This was a worn-out team. Now let's see what they look like. And I think that if they can come back to, even if they don't win against Florida, right? If it's one of those like 3-2 battles, maybe they bring it to overtime, like Casey said, where it gives you that Flyers hockey before this losing streak. I'm with Casey at about a 6 or a 7. But if we look the same way, I'm sorry, with all the outside stuff that's taking place, all that's now on Urson's shoulders, you can put me down at about a 3 after that. You know, it's
right. I'm glad you mentioned Urson though, like, because that to me is what is going to determine this team and the status of this team when they are marching towards the playoffs here. If we cannot get quality goaltending like the first, 30, 40 games of the season from Urson, we're in trouble. If we see the Urson that we saw these last 5 games, like we're in some deep trouble, because I can't depend on a guy like Cal Peterson to start even half the games and say, yeah, we'll make the playoffs. So I see your point, and I was about to say cop out, John, but I get it.
It's true though.
You're right. Like,
well, as a
get it.
Flyer fan, I'm not very confident. You know, I mean, I just look at it. It's like, okay, we had so much good happening, and then after the Carter Hart news, and I know we don't want to keep bringing it up, but it's like the wheels just started to come off. And in my head, I'm like, well, here we go. We had a great goalie tandem. Now it's all going to be on Urson. He's not going to be able to do it, and it's just
right. And we're playing teams that, like, I'm looking right now. 3/4 of the teams remaining are outscoring us in terms of goals per game. So, like, not only are we going to have to stop them from scoring, we're going to have to score more than them, and we're not right now. Like, so it's, I don't know. My confidence level is not incredibly high. I'll go 4, but as we kind of alluded to in past shows, at least recently, there's going to come a time to me that the bottom's going to fall out, and I think we're there right now.
I think, to quote the great Anthony Fauci, we have 2 weeks to flatten the curve here. And that worked out so well. And the next 2 weeks, as John said, I mean, this is it. This is the ball game. And we really need to see what this team is about. And I think it'd be so easy if, hey, we won 5 of 6 or lost 5 of 6. Like, okay, at least we have a direction. The way that this team is going to go, it's going to go 3-3, and 2 of the losses are in overtime. Like, it's just going to be like one of those things where it just strings us along. But you know what? We're playing meaningful hockey, and that's important, and that's important for the growth of this team. That's important for the growth of the fan base and the belief in there. But I think, I don't know. I'm the next 2 weeks are going to be tough. I'm going to go to Disney World and forget about it for 3 days. And
you were always on vacation,
right?
I'm not.
You are.
I wasn't on vacation last week. I was on a boondoggle. There's a difference.
Yeah, sure there is. I've traveled for work too. Yeah, stop working at noon, hit the dive bar by 12:30. So to kind of keep going in regards to this second half of the season, let's talk about your main concerns. Let's start with your main concern in terms of these last 32 games, John.
It rhymes with full tending. I mean, if goaltending's not your biggest concern, you haven't been paying attention to this team. I mean, Sam Ersson is on his own. Cal Peterson is not an answer. Felix Sandstrom is not an answer. I don't trust them to, be in the crease at all. I do wonder if maybe Sam Ersson can win a few games out of the break where maybe they go and see if they can pick up somebody slightly more reliable. I don't know what that would cost, but like anyone.
Is Cal Peterson that bad? Like, is he that bad?
Hasn't been great.
Yeah, I mean, to my understanding, both him and Sandstrom have sucked in the AHL too. So,
yeah, that you bring up an interesting point because I wanted to touch on that in regards to goaltending. I'm sorry, Matt Casey, if you have a point to make it.
No. Come back to me though, because I have some thoughts, but keep going.
Okay, so what I was going to ask in regards to that is obviously the deadline's coming up. I can't tell you what the goalie market looks like, but if there is a deal to be had in regards to even if it's a minor upgrade,
Tom Jones
with a goaltender. What?
Tom Jones. Yeah,
Tom Jones.
Unusual to be loved.
Remember Martin Tom Jones?
Martin Tom Jones.
Yeah.
Is he available first and foremost? Do you think we can have him in a trade where we're not giving up premium assets?
Well, I mean, I don't think anybody's giving up premium assets for Thomas Martin Jones. But,
all right. Are you making that deal? I'll put it that way.
Well, listen, I mean, again, it depends on what you have to get rid of for any of those guys. But like, if you have to trade like a 5th round pick to, shore up the back end a little bit, then I would say do it.
Okay.
You also don't want to overwork Ersson. I mean, wasn't that his biggest problem last year in the AHL playoffs? Right? Was he just played too much?
I think that's the blessing and that's the curse on this is that like Ersson has played a lot of hockey, but he faded through the stretch. I'm with you. If Sandstrom and Peterson are not the answers, one, why are they still here? But two, I think we need to make a minor move to get a backup goalie, and there's a difference there. There's a difference between a backup goalie and a starting goalie going through. Right. We just need a guy who can take every 5th game, not every 3rd game, every 5th game, something like that.
Is Brian Elliott still around?
Right. Yeah. But yeah, what I was going to say back to my concerns is anything more on the goaltending. I didn't want to.
Well, no, but I just feel like that's the obvious one.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I think that this is in tandem with it, where the goaltending has been shoddy because of the overall team defense, which is directly correlating to the transition game. And, we are pushing the pace, and then our legs just went to shit. And you like to think that this week, it's been 10 days. It'll be 10 days between games, basically. Right. So can that reignite this team? Because if not, like we don't have, we're giving up 6 goals a game. Like that's unacceptable. And yes, you can count empty netters and having Kucherov light us up, the best, one of the best, skill guys out there. Like excuses are like every team has that. Like,
right, exactly.
There's so many times you can do that. At some point, you got to get back to playing that team defense and the team transition game that ended up, getting us so much success in the early part of the season.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I'm with you.
Sorry,
I'm hoping
a little bit.
I'm hoping that this is a nice little reset for this team so that they can get back to their winning ways and the way that they were playing when they were playing really well and hockey was fun. Is the 10 days going to be enough, or is it just going to compound and this team's going to come back the same? That's
everybody's going to come back and get injured.
I hope the entire team just sat there getting like massage treatments and therapy. They were like tapped into BetterHelp the whole time. It's be like, you are good enough. You are smart enough. To quote the great movie Summer Catch, allow yourself to be great.
So Morgan Frost just hung out with Meltzer for 10 days.
It's so bad, dude. It's so
Oh my
bad.
God.
Listen to that.
Oh, I would love to just talk to him, like, and find out why the Frost just being so enamored with one guy. I like, can you guys? We've had our guys that we've got, our crushes on when it comes to like, we really like this guy. Has it ever reached Bill Meltzer type fever pitch for you guys at all?
The thing is, and I don't want to speak for Bill, and I respect what Bill does, even though we're kind of
Sure.
poking a little fun at him right now. But like, I think that the idea is he recognizes Frost's potential and doesn't see somebody like many other pieces on the roster with that potential. So it's like, I think that's what he's enamored by, like what can be.
So he's seeing what most of us are seeing. Like that's kind of.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not,
Right.
being paid to represent the guy. I can't really tell you.
Right.
I don't know. Casey, you have any thoughts?
No, I just think it's a weird upset. Like he's the only guy with the potential, like flashy hand skill,
Sure,
on the roster. Like he's not. Owen Tippett's a different animal. He's a power forward with like a little sprinkle of really amazing finesse. Frost is just a finesse guy, but he's not a great finesse guy. And maybe he'll get there. I just, he's another one that like, do we have to cut bait with this guy?
all for it.
I'm just kind of tired of him.
Yeah, and I'm tired of the optimism that some people have about him.
Right.
Just like, stop it.
Yeah. We all want to be optimistic. I mean, I like him. Like, I know we've poked our fun at him too, but like, I want to see him succeed because it ultimately makes the team better.
Of course. And I think, if he plays true to who he was last year, maybe this is Morgan Frost's time to shine. Like maybe this is like the 2 months where, hey, you ripped it up last year in the back half of the season, but it didn't mean anything. Okay, can you do it when it means something?
Well, and I feel like the problem is I feel like it's deja vu with this conversation where it's like, here's his opportunity.
Right.
Didn't even John Tortorella say like, if you're not making yourself seen on this roster,
right? Yeah, he compared the guy to a toilet seat. Like, I mean, for Christ's sake.
I mean, every single post about Frost should just be followed with #bridge deal. Just one more bridge that he's got to do. He's going to be a 38-year-old. Yeah, having a bridge deal.
We're still just talking about his great games against the Coyotes.
We'll put up a poll. Is Morgan Frost the Nickelback of the Flyers? Like, not that bad, but gets the unnecessary hate that he doesn't deserve.
Every song sounds the same.
But is not
Same
welcome
story.
with arms wide open.
Oh, Creed reference.
Isn't that Creed?
Okay, here's one. Creed, Nickelback. Pick one.
God damn it! I thought that was Nickelback. We're not the same thing.
No,
I'm gonna kick you in the. Oh my
Wait,
God!
are you a big Nickelback fan?
I grew up listening to Creed. I love Creed.
I mean, isn't Scott Stapp like a meth head or something like that now?
Meth head that makes decent music.
Still
cool. I don't care what he does in his spare time. If he can grace me with that sweet sound of
his old guitarist Tremonti. Have you ever listened to Alter Bridge? That band's really good.
Alter Bridge is great.
Yeah, he's a killer.
The drummer
guitarist.
went to Juilliard.
Ballet too.
Juilliard's a music school.
It's an art school.
Jackass.
Yeah. No, it's like an art school.
It's like the most renowned. It's like the most renowned.
I know what Juilliard is.
Yeah, so it says something that he went there, right?
Sure. Why are we talking about this right
like,
now?
do you want your 1C to go to Boston or do you want him to go to Franklin and Marshall?
Or to Millersville.
Rather Millersville.
I want him to stay out of the bean pot because I don't need anybody convincing him not to come to the Flyers.
Yeah. Maybe Boston was a poor choice.
Damn you, Kevin Hayes.
Oh, all right. So that is
that's Creed.
Nickelback. That's Creed.
All right. Is it Creed or Nickelback?
It's a new game we're gonna end every show with. Creed or Nickelback.
All right, hold on. I want a Nickelback one.
They sing that song. We're going out tonight.
Yeah, the old Raw intro.
Nickelback's greatest hits. Here's a one-song playlist.
This show went off the rails real quick.
That's
This is
Creed.
everybody.
That's Creed.
I'm hanging it up. I'm done here.
I love how technically savvy. I'm holding my phone up to the speaker.
Well, our producer Hoagie isn't here. But all right, just real quick before we wrap things up, predictions. Yes or no, John?
Yeah.
Do the Flyers make the playoffs?
Yes.
Casey?
No.
Damn, Casey.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe.
I think we get there. I think we're like 4 points shy.
If we
Okay.
weren't in the third spot in the Metro right now, I would say no. But I'm just like, you got to do that statistic thing where it's like so many teams that are in a playoff spot after a certain period of time. So I just, went with the numbers like I normally do.
I've been hurt too many times.
I'm even just looking at the standings right now. Like they're at 56 points, 5 points out of second, and they're 7 points out of first. The teams below them, though, immediately it's the Islanders, 4 points, and then 5, 5, 5, and then it's Columbus. It is a tight race for that third spot.
Mm-hmm.
If they can outpace those teams, awesome. But like you're talking about the Penguins, the Devils, it's got to click sometime for those guys. And then the Caps, too.
Jack Hughes, is Jack Hughes still out?
I don't think so. I think he's back.
I thought he was out for a bit. I don't know.
He was, yeah, I know that, but I don't know if he's back yet or not. I think he is back, but I'm not positive.
I think that, sorry, go ahead, John.
Well, I'm not that worried about who's like under us. I'm sorry, the New York Islanders don't scare me at all.
No, I'm with you there.
The Penguins, I mean, they have their moments, but I don't think that they're that good. The Devils, yeah, they worry me. The Capitals don't worry me. Like, I think that we could, at worst, finish fourth in the division, which would at least give us a wild card spot.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But then if you're talking wild card, that's between Toronto. Like you've got to beat Toronto at that point. And Toronto is like the top 4 of the Atlantic division right now. Great teams. Boston, Florida, Tampa, Toronto. Like that's the cream of the crop right there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that battling it out for a wild card spot does worry me.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Now there's 2 spots, but like I'm still concerned because I'd rather insure it with a divisional seed as opposed to a
well, yeah. I mean,
seed.
right now the 2 wild card spots have more points than the Flyers.
Right, exactly.
So if we drop, we're out.
Toronto and
Right.
Detroit of all
Yeah.
teams, Detroit has a wild card berth right now.
I will say I'd rather be going head to head with the Devils right now than I would with Pittsburgh. And the Pittsburgh game, like Pittsburgh as a team doesn't scare me, but when we play them does scare me. So I think it's like the next time we play them, it's like, hey, we have the Rangers matinee and then Pittsburgh. And it's like, God damn, man.
I mean,
Can we just get these guys
3-3
on a Thursday at 7? Can't it just be like, with everyone having a day off?
Right. They're 4-3-3 in their last 10. Not great, but like Flyers are 5-5. It's one of those things. We'll see how it pans out. But yeah, Pittsburgh, it's always a tough game, no matter what the seed or what the standings read. I'm gonna say they make it.
Okay.
I'm gonna say they
believe
make it.
you guys are the optimist and I'm the pessimist in this one. This is such a freakish change here.
I'm honestly, Casey, I'm shocked that you said no.
I'm doing the math, and after looking at the standings, you guys just confirmed it. I don't see us making a wild card. It's either you're making the top 3 or you're not making it at all.
Right.
And so I think like it's just a narrower field at this point.
Oh, yeah.
I think that the one benefit though is that as the Flyers were stinking, the rest of the Metro was stinking too.
That's fair.
Agreed.
Where it's like nobody really gained
Mhm.
anything. Everybody was having their struggles.
Carolina is the only team in the Metro that has an above 500 record in their last 10 games. They're 7-2-1.
Yeah.
Like that's the only. Everybody else 3-5-2, 4-5-1, 3-6-1, 4-3-3, 2-6-2. Like even the Rangers are 4-5-1. in their last 10. So, good for the Flyers, at least the bad stretch is coming at a good time. But you can't say that the rest of the year. Like, this is going to be some balls to the wall hockey for these last 32 games, and they need to really push it.
Like we said, 2 weeks. The next 2 weeks will tell us everything.
Flatten the curve, baby. Flatten the curve.
Because in 2 weeks, too, Danny Briere will be able to be like, okay, you know what? Actually, we are just going to trade everybody away because
that's what Yzerman had to do last year. Like the Red Wings were in position going into March, but then they just had like a stretch, and it was like, yeah, we don't have it. And
they're
it's
in
like,
the same position this year.
You have to know when to rip the band-aid.
When to hold them. Know when to fold them. Know when to walk away. All right. Well, that just about wraps it up then for what we had to discuss here this week. So everybody here, John, if you'd let them know, they can't find you anywhere, actually.
You can't find me anywhere. I'm off the grid.
All right, Casey.
Pod Street Casey.
Twitter or X or Truth Social?
Truth Social and MySpace.
All right. And in terms of where they'll be able to find the podcast,
and Nickelback Reddit.
Just that one guy under every post. These guys suck.
Who is this, Creed?
Scott Stapp sucks. Nickelback. If you can't tell that this is Nickelback and you're going to tell me it's Creed, there is a distinct difference.
It's a distinct difference in the amount of crap that's flowing through my ears right now, man. Jesus Christ.
All right. Well,
give me live all day long.
They're from my hometown. I know their bass player. My sister was a cheerleader and cheered with the bass player's daughter. So I got to meet him. He showed me his studio and his house. Really cool. Patrick Dahlheimer. My man. Anyways, our affiliates, Flyers High and Wide, they're on X at FlyersHW. 5 Minute Major Podcast on X at 5 Min Major Pod. Until next week, we'll have a little bit more hockey to talk about aside from an all-star game. So until then, let's go Flyers.
Bye now.
With arms wide open.